Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. I am so incredibly excited to take you through this text today. When we hear the name William Shakespeare, it's super easy to picture dusty textbooks and, well, really old-fashioned language. But what we're looking at today is something entirely different. Macbeth is basically a brilliant, intensely suspenseful psychological thriller. It's this dark, captivating exploration of how power corrupts, and honestly, it's just as thrilling today as it was the day it was written. So we're going to break down exactly how this masterpiece operates and really map out the anatomy of a tragedy. Let's get into it.
Section 1. The Trap of Ambition, the core human question.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Even though this text is over 400 years old, it still completely captivates audiences everywhere. And why? Because it hinges on this massive universal hook. I want you to really overpowers conscience. And listen, this isn't just some abstract philosophical debate. In Macbeth, this is the visceral psychological force driving the entire narrative. It's the engine of the whole tragedy. Every single choice, every betrayal, and every murder stems from that exact moment when conscience is violently shoved aside just to make way for ambition.
Section 2. Setting the bloody stage, the Jacobean context.
So, to truly get how shocking this story was for its original audience, we've got to quickly ground our explainer in historical reality. This was written around 1606, right after King James I took the throne. And the Jacobean age, well, it was practically buzzing with some very specific anxieties. The new king was obsessed with Scottish history, what it meant to be a king, and he had this very real, very intense paranoia about witchcraft. But the absolute most vital concept to grasp here is the divine right of kings. This was the literal belief that a monarch's right to rule came directly from God. So for Shakespeare's audience, treason and regicide, actually murdering a king, wasn't just a political crime. It was this horrifying, unforgivable sin against the natural and divine order. Basically, to them, killing a king was like breaking the universe.
Moving on to Section 3. The tragic hero's descent, from honorable warrior to mad tyrant. Keeping that immense historical weight in mind, we can start mapping how our protagonist completely falls from grace. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the concept of hamartia. According to Aristotle, a tragic hero is someone of noble stature who crashes and burns because of a fatal flaw, their hamartia. And Macbeth, he fits this ancient model perfectly. See, at the very beginning of the play, he isn't some natural-born villain, not at all. He's brave, honorable, intensely loyal, and super respected. I mean, King Duncan literally calls him Scotland's greatest warrior. But he has this one incredibly dangerous weakness that acts as his hamartia.
Vaulting ambition. What makes this so fascinating is that Macbeth actually recognizes this flaw within himself. He knows he's hungry for greatness. The witches, they just throw a match on a desire that was already burning inside him. And this is exactly what makes Macbeth such a psychologically complex character. He fully, completely understands the moral cost of his ambition. He weighs the consequences. He knows what he's about to do is wrong. And yet, unlike villains who are just senselessly evil, Macbeth consciously chooses to cross that line anyway.
Let's move to the timeline and see how this builds into an absolute, irreversible avalanche of violence. It all starts on day 1, when the weird, mysterious witches prophesy that he's going to wear the crown. Then we get to midnight, the betrayal and brutal murder of his king and guest, Duncan. But that crime changes everything for him. Getting the crown literally cost him his sanity. He gets totally consumed by fear, which leads to the paranoid murder of his best friend Banquo, and eventually the horrifying, senseless slaughter of Macduff's wife and children. Every single crime pushes him deeper and deeper into madness until the final day, which ends in his ultimate violent defeat.
Section 4. The Iron-Willed Queen, the cost of ruthlessness.
Now, Macbeth definitely doesn't walk this bloody path alone. Enter Lady Macbeth. She is undeniably one of literature's most memorable, terrifying, and just straight-up complex characters. The second she hears about the witch's prophecy, there is zero hesitation. She immediately sees an opportunity for power. And at first, she comes off as way more ruthless and fearless than her husband. To make absolutely sure Macbeth goes through with killing the king, she masterfully manipulates him. How? By directly attacking his pride and aggressively questioning his masculinity. Yeah, she famously worries that her husband is too full of the milk of human kindness to do what needs to be done to steal the throne. This iconic line is absolutely crucial because it shows us how she actively, deliberately pushes him over the edge into moral corruption. She practically weaponizes his own insecurities, mocking his weakness just to forge him into a murderer.
But here is the wild twist.
The woman who once mocked weakness is ultimately destroyed by it. Shakespeare slowly peels back the layers to reveal her profound vulnerability. She becomes entirely haunted by immense guilt. We're talking chronic sleepwalking, desperately trying to wash imaginary blood off her hands, crying out, damn spot. It all spirals into a complete mental breakdown and ultimately her death. This perfectly nails Shakespeare's central point. No human being can completely escape the psychological consequences of their actions. The mind always keeps the score.
Section 5. Fate, Symbols, and Themes. The Anatomy of Madness. Let's zoom out from the characters for a second, because Shakespeare uses some brilliant thematic dualities here. Think about the weird sisters, the three witches. They predict the future, they mess with people's perceptions, and they constantly blur the line between reality and illusion. But notice this. They never actually command Macbeth to kill anyone. They just plant the seed. And this brings up one of the play's biggest, most enduring questions. Is Macbeth being controlled by fate, or is he entirely responsible for his own choices? Do the witches write his future, or does he? Shakespeare purposefully leaves us wrestling with that exact balance between destiny and free will.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core theme of appearance versus reality. You've probably heard the witch's famous chant, "Fair is foul, and foul is fair." It perfectly sets up this creepy atmosphere where literally nothing is what it seems. The witches tell half-truths that completely deceive. Lady Macbeth plays the perfect loyal hostess while she's literally plotting a murder upstairs. And Macbeth looks like this honorable hero while he's actively morphing into a tyrant. It is a constant, glaring reminder that appearances are totally deceiving.
That whole idea of deception extends directly into leadership, too. Shakespeare uses the story to hold up two very different models of a ruler. On the left, we have Duncan and Malcolm. They represent just, wise, legitimate kingship. And they are contrasted directly against Macbeth on the right, who is the textbook definition of a cruel, paranoid, self-serving tyrant. By putting these two styles side by side, Shakespeare is exploring what actually makes a good leader, while serving up a massive warning against the total abuse of political power. To really make us feel that heavy, oppressive vibe, the play leans incredibly hard on some visceral motifs. Blood is everywhere, symbolizing the guilt and moral corruption that literally stains their hands. Then there's darkness, which masks the evil, secrecy, and moral confusion of all these terrible acts. And finally, sleep. Sleep is supposed to represent peace, innocence, and psychological stability. But once Macbeth and Lady Macbeth commit murder, that's it. They can never sleep peacefully again. Their guilt fundamentally shatters the natural rhythms of their own minds. Life's but a walking shadow. This is Macbeth's famous reaction right after he finds out his wife is dead. I just want you to let that sink in for a moment. In that one single phrase, Shakespeare captures this absolute crushing despair. It's the total meaninglessness and fragility of existence that Macbeth feels right at the end of his bloody road. He gave up literally everything, his honor, his peace of mind, his soul, for a crown that ultimately gave him nothing but shadows. Section 6. A Timeless Warning, Why Macbeth Matters Today. So the crucial point here is that this isn't just some dusty old story about kings and castles. It is a timeless, urgent warning. Modern audiences still connect with Macbeth because the themes are staggeringly universal. We see echoes of this play everywhere today, in political corruption, in our totally toxic obsession with success at any cost, in the abuse of power, in the brutal realities of psychological trauma, and in that slippery slope of moral compromise. Macbeth isn't just a monster we're supposed to be scared of. He's a deeply human warning. His tragedy starts with a feeling most of us know, the desire to rise higher. It's a stark reminder that the fiercest battles aren't fought on a battlefield, but inside the human soul. Which leaves us with this final lingering thought. As you go out and navigate your own ambitions, your own goals, and your own path to success, ask yourself, what are you actually willing to sacrifice to rise higher? Because as we've seen, it's a very fine line between healthy ambition and destructive obsession. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you in the next one.